Hello friends and welcome. I'm Sara Lihz and I have a really fun light up card for you today. This is the Pearblossom Press Twinkle lights, and then I've created a little hatch on the inside so that if the battery runs down, it's really easy to replace. Plus it's a birthday card and I've been trying to stock my stash with birthday cards lately. So let's take a look at the supplies. First, we're using the Twinkle lights. It has 3 lights that twinkle on and off, the world's best foam tape that is repositionable for 30 minutes, and the perfect height for those lights. Then this is the Spellbinders Small Die of the Month for January 2025. It is a stunning dragonfly with 2 different wing options. Then this is the Spellbinders Stencil of the Month for January. It's a 5-piece layering stencil that's going to create that beautiful floral border. Then these are some free printable sentiments that I released on my channel a couple of days ago. They say 2024, but it's a huge birthday kit that I released for the start of 2025. But let's go ahead and get started. So there are 5 pieces to this layering stencil set, and I'm going to use my Waffle Flower grip mat, and I am just sticking down my stencil, but there's not a lot of extra stencil space. So I have added just a little bit of tape on the top and bottom just to make sure it doesn't move. But I'm going to do really simple stenciling. I thought at first about coming in with 2 shades of ink, especially on these larger blooms, to make the center a little darker, but I thought let's just see what happens. So here's the first layer. This is the big flowers, and it's actually 2 separate layers to finish those flowers. This second layer is big flowers too. I went through and labeled all of my stencils just with a black Sharpie marker, and then I put some Scotch tape over the top to make sure that it wouldn't come off when I clean these with alcohol. But this has some extra pieces for the big flowers and some smaller flowers as well. So when I peel this off, you'll see we've completed the petals for one and added some extra flowers in between. For this next piece, I have brought in my very palest shade of pink. It's called Rose Quartz from Altenew. I wanted to fill in the centers of these flowers, and then there are more small flowers coming into play here. But we're going to have another layer of color to add to the centers of the large flowers. So I wanted something light. You could use a paste on those other centers as well, the smaller centers, but I didn't want to have to wait for it to dry because I don't have that kind of patience. So I just went with a really light color. Then stencil 4 is the leaves, and you can see here what happens when you have an ink pad that is fully inked. This is a new pad for me, and I was like, oh my goodness, this layer just took me like 10 seconds. And the rest of them took 3 to 4 times as long because they're favorite ink colors of mine, and they're getting a little bit dry. So clearly there's a little ink pad maintenance in my future. This last layer is the centers of the flowers, and I'm using a black pigment ink. I wanted to make sure it would cover up all of that light pink ink, but you could use a gold paste or a silver paste. You could do some really fun things here. I just thought this was pretty easy. Off camera, I trimmed about 1/8 of an inch off because I had a touch of a white border hanging off of one edge. So I just trimmed the whole thing down, and then I'm going over the centers of the flowers, the black pieces, with a little shimmer pen. Next, we're going to put this die together, and it's pretty easy. I have all 4 wings cut out of some white shimmer cardstock. It's 65 pound, and it's just the solid wing. And then I'm pressing that into the die that cuts that very detailed silver piece. Well, once I press into that with my thumb, I can see where all the lines are, and I'm just going to color those in with my alcohol markers instead of trying to paper piece this, which would take forever, okay? And I am not up for that. Here's the thing I've learned. You want to color pretty much to where the color touches each other, so you're not leaving any white lines. These wing detailed pieces are so thin that no matter how hard I tried, if I didn't color everything, I would end up with little white spots showing. If I had this to do again, I might put some adhesive sheet on the back of the silver parts of the wings, but I'm just going to use some wet glue here. You'll see how this goes. Also, I am really terrible at trying to think mirror image when I'm coloring pieces in. So you'll see I have 2 purple pieces in the middle of the wing. I didn't mean to do that. So I'm going to go over one of them with the color I meant to use. And then I'll go back to the other wing with my purple marker and just add that layer on top as well. So they'll match. We just have a brand new color showing up in our wings. I wasn't starting over. Here's what I'm doing with the wing. I am just dotting little bits of Barely Art glue all over the back, and then I'm going to tap it off on the back of my hand. Because it's a metallic cardstock, I really didn't want that oozing out and then marring the finish or making it look matte at times. But you can see we have shimmer in the wing. We have that silver cardstock for all those details. I am adding one more layer of this solid piece and a heavyweight cardstock because that 65 isn't super heavy, and one of the wings is going to hang off of the card. Then I will add a silver piece on top of the body. There is a piece you can add on to the head that sort of makes the eyes distinct from the rest of the head. But my friends and I were live streaming making this dragonfly and realized that when you do that, it looks like a frowny face. And I didn't want a frowny face on my dragonfly. I've arranged my wings where I want them so that they're all kind of touching in the center. And then I just put a big dollop of glue behind the biggest part of the body and laid it right on top. This little hello die is in that same die set. I hadn't used it yet, even though I've made a bunch of cards with these kits. And I am going to lay that right on top of another one, just so it's a little more substantial. There isn't a shadow die, and I didn't want that little hello to get lost, to feel too dainty as we're putting everything together. I'm going to lay those two on top of my card just so I know what gets covered up. And then I'm picking 3 of my small flowers and I'm just poking my little pickup stick through there. I have a piece of foam behind it, but you could use just some leftover packaging or styrofoam if you have that. After I'd poked my holes, I remembered that I had cut this down by 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to glue the whole thing on top of an A2 black piece of cardstock, and I'll just poke the holes one more time. That's where my lights are going to shine through, and I will kind of pick it up and make sure I'm going all the way in as far as I can with my little pokey tool because it gets wider closer to the base. Now I have my twinkle lights. I just pop in the battery and push the button and my 3 lights blink on and off, and they sort of rotate which light is blinking at any given time. I'm laying that light upside down on my card base and trying to figure out where I need to place it so that I can just write a note on the inside that says press the biggest flower in the bottom right or something like that. You could stamp press on there and that would work too, but I had already stenciled everything. I'm lightly going around the outside of that sort of battery mechanism with my pencil, and then I'm going to take my scissors and just cut in on the 2 sides, and then I'll take this to my scoreboard and just find where there's a groove close that I can use to connect those 2 cut marks. I'm making a little flap door, and this is how you'll be able to replace that battery if it wears out over time. I have some double-sided adhesive tape on the back of my battery pack. I know this seems a little wonky to install it upside down, but I promise the button works just as well upside down as it does right side up. And not only will it make it easy to replace the battery, but it's going to make it easier to install the lights. So I removed the backing from that adhesive tape, and then I'm just laying down the black panel on top of my card base and picking that up. Now my lights are attached to the front of my card. When I attach a battery pack to my card base, but then the lights to the card front, like I'm doing here, it means my wires are spanning from one to the other before I get the foam tape on and the whole thing sandwiched together. So this is just a little easier to manage with those wires. I'm using some clear tape, and I am taping these so that the yellow part of the light, that's where the light is going to shine, is just right in those holes. And then when I press the button, it will shine through the flowers, and I love it. I test it first, and then I'll use just a little more tape to very gently curl those wires and tape them to the back of the panel. To make room for my battery pack, I am adding foam tape. This is the world's best foam tape from Pearblossom Press. It is repositionable for 30 minutes, and that just means I have a lot less anxiety when I go to put the 2 panels together because I know if they aren't perfect, I can just peel it back off and try again. The backing paper comes off super easily, and I'm going to stick this in the corner of my MISTI, make sure that my trap door is going to be overlapping my light, and then I will tuck that into the same corner, and I know that they're going to line up perfectly. I press the button, the lights are working, and now we can work on our sentiment. Because I'm working on a birthday stash right now, I didn't want the card to just say hello. So I have these strip sentiments that I released along with a bunch of other sentiments and then some background papers and things like that for free over on my channel. I'll just link that below with all the other supplies in the description box. But I have trimmed out this happy birthday using the tick marks on the side. But when I put it on my card, I felt like the white was blending kind of into the background and I didn't want to create a matte layer. So I cut them out again from another sheet that's in the same kit that is white text on black. At this point, all of my pieces are ready and I can glue things onto my card. I just put a little glue behind the body of my dragonfly and then a little bit behind the wings, but I want them to pop up a little bit. And I'm gonna leave the one wing hanging off the edge. That doesn't bother me. A lot of my cards are hand deliver, especially a light up card, because I want to see the person's face when they press that button for the first time. I used little dots of glue for the hello, just like before, and then a little glue behind that happy birthday, and it tucks beautifully under there. It's nice and small. And then on the inside, I have sorry I'm late, and I'm gonna put removable adhesive on here. I am notoriously late with birthday cards, so this way, if I'm not late, I'll just remove that, but if I am late, then I'll glue it down for good. I open my trap door, add a little bit of that removable adhesive just where it overlaps that battery pack, and our card, you guys, is complete. I press the button and all the lights twinkle. I open it up and here's my trap door. It's really easy to kind of tuck my thumb in there, push that battery out and replace it if I need to. I hope this is inspiring for you. I hope you'll give this a try. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you next time.